Here we are. It is our second best of 3 for today. We're still in the upper bracket, so whatever team does lose here today will have a second lives for themselves, and whoever wins is one step closer to PCS. And we believe that this series is going to be a pretty close one. So let's just jump on into it. Let's talk about these rosters and why we think this series is going to be quite a close one between the two. Starting off with Antic here. They've had a pretty big roller coaster of a season, but still coming out on top, Max.
You said it, Nat. Roller coaster, especially the way they ended the split, right? Dropping a loss to Kanga to close out the regular season proceedings is definitely not the way they wanted to go. You could see Draku coming into that interview was visibly upset, so you do wonder how the team has handled the morale heading into this week. But this is a team who have very clearly established their identity. They want to play through this mid-AD Ryoma. We took a look at his stats last week, absolutely carrying the team, basically the world in terms of damage, DPM, KP, all of these kind of statistics, and King always able to hold it down there towards the bot lane. Now, the thing where this team really starts to struggle is potentially the integration of Swiper here in the jungle. He has been put in this more facilitative role, and sometimes that can be a potential for other teams to target.
Yeah, on the other side of this matchup, though, is Ground Zero, and this team, you cannot use roller coaster when you describe them. They have been stable all throughout this and actually only growing stronger, Skimmy.
Yeah, certainly the case, right? They dropped the 2-0 into Antic in their last meeting, and they had a 1-1 up against Bliss, but rightfully deserving of their spot in, third seed coming into tonight's proceedings, right? You've obviously got the star power of Kisei and Schönfire, very explosive, aggressive, keen to dive you at any given opportunity kind of combo. Limus and Benvi, a rock in the bot lane, is a pairing that have been around for such a long time. And this is their second stint together, and they have a lot of creativity. Obviously, you can see the Nyla being played on this occasion for the Sona to back it up. He's not afraid to try and showcase something a little bit different. But then for Tien, whilst he's had his rocky moments, I think he had the best possible way to close out that regular season, picking up the MVP with the Udyr and the Zac. And we already heard from Schönfire thinking that they peaked maybe a little bit too early, but with playoffs here and up against one of the big favorites as well, would certainly be a good time to show your best form.
The highlights that we're seeing here is from the last time that they matched up, and that was so long ago. That was all the way back in week 2. It was actually Antic's first series, first matchup of the LCO Split 1, and that was when we saw Swiper coming into jungle for the first time, and we had no idea what to expect. I also think Ground Zero didn't know, so the fact that there's been a lot of time between this series and now, they probably have a closer understanding of the playstyles of these two teams, Max.
Yeah, and I think from what these replays are showing, it really was Ground Zero who did have quite a firm control over the majority of these games, and then really it was Antic with their late game team fighting prowess who were able to squeeze it back in their favor, as Draku showing the confidence that he always has. But I think kind of the 2-0, I said it before, it's not really representative of the divide between these teams. I think players from both rosters have mentioned the fact that it's really whoever shows up on the day and is in better form can really take it, because in terms of skill, these teams are so even. It really just does come down to what form are we seeing today.
Yeah, from us watching on the outside, it's a little bit of a coin flip, but the players know a lot better than we do. So let's bring in Zoranis. He's going to give us some insight about this upcoming matchup here, because Zoranis, first of all, nice haircut, man. Where did you get a cut?
Thank you. I just went to a barber. I wanted to look in style to make it to PCS.
I love it. You want to make sure that the player cam reactions, you got the slick haircut to match with. I'm sure that will no doubt be phenomenal plays, but it was a bit of a rough week for you guys last week. I mean, we saw it in Draku. I'm not sure how you were with it, but where is the atmosphere for the team sitting as a whole coming into today from that week?
I think the loss was at a good time for us. Like, that game in terms of the standings didn't matter whatsoever. Like, we still had side selection coming into today. So I think it was good that we actually lost and we worked on our mistakes. We figured out what was not working. In terms of coming into today, like, honestly, I'm not really sure what will happen. Like, we kind of didn't really have many scrims leading up to today. Like, not in our control, really. So we'll see how we go.
Yep. Obviously, I'm going to probe, I'm going to ask, but what were some of those mistakes that you guys think that you've worked on since last week and hopefully won't be present today?
Look, I think a lot of the mistakes just come down to disrespecting our opponents and giving them windows into the game where they really shouldn't have any.
All right, then what is going to be your advantage against Ground Zero? You know, no disrespect, like a very like nice even playing field. What do you think is going to be that strength?
Look, I think going into the mid game, we have a much stronger mid game, and unfortunately for Ground Zero, they have to play with Bemby, and he's gonna walk in solo warding and die.
Wow.
Ain't no way.
Jump in there, Max. You're free to answer it as a question.
I love it. I don't think I can ask a better question. First of all, good luck for today. Secondly, I wanted to get your feeling on the top lane matchup today because TN is someone who we've hyped up as, you know, obviously a very good top lane prospect, but this season kind of feels like he hasn't been reaching that same level of form.
Yeah, look, I don't know what's happened to the guy. He keeps getting solo killed by almost everyone in the league, so I'm not really too sure. I mean, lucky for him, the top lane meta kind of right now is mostly tanks, so top lane's probably going to be a boring island again.
Until you pick Varus.
Yeah, then I might run it down.
Looking forward to it.
It's good.
What I was going to say is, obviously in that last performance up against Ground Zero, you played Udyr back-to-back and had like a fairly standout performance against that. Is that going to be the key to top lane this night? You know, just stability, Udyr, Cassante, all these champions that just cannot get dived and can just be that snooze fest as you highlight?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, the Udyr's been bad in the last couple series, so we'll have to see.
Nothing away, Nat. I tried to probe for you as well.
Yeah. Hey, we're always going to try, but Zoranus, we don't have too much more time, so I will let you go. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck today.
Thank you.
See ya. I like that we tried to probe for like game information, and he's like, "Oh, here's some trash talk instead."
It feels like get a stray though. Like it's not even his lane opponent. It's just like Benby. Like,
It
Like,
feels
he's just
so
gonna
weird
die.
for us to get this trash talk. It feels like such a long time. Everyone's just like, yeah, it's going to be a great game. Yeah, can't wait. Yeah, cool.
No, I love it. I
I'm
feel
for it.
like the closer the series is predicted to be, the heavier the trash talk. You know, they start going, all right, maybe skills are a little bit even. Let's try and get their head mentally. Let's try and like make them play angry, and maybe they'll make some mistakes, force them into making those mistakes. I don't know if it's going to work. Maybe we'll see a little bit of a bite back when we do get to talk to Ground Zero as well. But for Antic, with how everything's been shaping up, what we saw in week 2 when they matched up to now, do you feel like the growth of Ground Zero and the growth of Antic are the same? Or do you think that Ground Zero have made more of a leap, Skimmy?
I feel like Ground Zero have improved. They've dropped more games, but at the same time, I think they've looked more explosive. I think Antic have shown signs of growth, no doubt. Obviously, Swiper being off-roll is going to really accelerate that, but I think at times they've very much relied on Roma and King just having a standout performance, and I've almost put too much riding on the late game. Getting to late game, if we get there, 2-3 items, whatever it may be, we've got a chance. So I think if they can weather the storm, which is the early game that Ground Zero have, then I think there's a chance. But it really is those two opposite styles colliding.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, Zoranus just said that the mid game is their strength. So let's pull in Kisse from Ground Zero. Let's ask him some questions about this upcoming matchup here. Kisse, first of all, thank you for joining us. How are you feeling heading into this best of 3 now?
I'm feeling pretty excited. You know, we've done a lot of preparations coming up to the stage. So all that's left to do is just win and make it to Taiwan.
Yeah, do you feel like it's revenge as well? Because you guys unfortunately went 0-2 all the way at the start of the split. So does this feel more like revenge and to prove that you are on the same level skill-wise as Antic?
No, we don't do revenge in our team. We just we play to improve and we play to win, like overall the whole thing. We keep it humble, you know.
I like it. Yeah. Don't focus too much on the other team there. But when we spoke to Antic just then, we spoke to Zoranus, and he said like the mid game is where he feels Antic is strongest. Would you kind of say the same? And if so, where do you think Ground Zero's strength is then?
I would kindly agree with Zoranus. Like, I think Antics are really good at coming back into the game if they fall behind, like how they did against our games. The strength for Ground Zero, I would say, is like, I'd say our laning is like really good across the board, and we just have to play the mid game out like fairly smooth, and we should win.
Yeah. Awesome. Skimmy, floor is open for you.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, say, obviously you've shown a whole bunch of champions the split. You've played 9 compared to Roma only showing 5. So do you feel like that's going to be something that you're going to need to utilize in this series? A massive champion pool to catch them off guard, like the Midway or the Ari or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I don't even know I played that many champions, to be honest, but I think that's just a positive thing we have about our team is a lot of our players can play like a lot of champs, so we can pretty much like flex a lot of champs. That's meta right now.
And Max?
Now, sup Ron, firstly, humble is definitely a word I'd use to describe you and the rest of the team. But
Yeah.
speaking of someone who wasn't very humble was Zorinus, and he came into these interviews saying, look, it's going to be an easy game because we're playing against Benvi and all he does is go and face check to ward and die. So, look, I just want to get your thoughts on that and perhaps a potential response.
I kind of agree with Zoras. Like Benvi, like does that at least like one game in a scrim, and like we're always like flaming him or bullying him. So hopefully he doesn't do it on stage. And yeah,
Fantastic.
No,
Not what I was
no words.
expecting, but good
Yeah, I
luck
was going to say, no quick words that you want to say back to Antic or about Zorinus?
oh no, I don't have to. It's okay, it's fine. We just let the game play.
All right, we will let the game play. Kisei, we'll let you go then. Thank you so much for joining us and good luck.
Thank you.
If
Kisei,
you ever were behind the comms of a game or a review and you listen to that guy speak, you would not recognize it as the same person. I'm telling you that right now.
I was about to say, the Kisei I remember from a couple of years ago is not the Kisei we just interviewed there, though. I do love that he said, hey, let's put it out on the Rift. We'll leave it down to there. We don't have to do any trash talking because ultimately our play and this game and this series is what's going to be the decider, and that's going to be all the talking that needs to be done for him. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get something in the post game if they win, and depending on who we pick up for that interview. But this series, it's definitely set to be a very close one, a heavy one. Not to like reveal our predictions earlier or anything like that, but the last time that they saw each other, the last time that we saw them play against each other in week 2, it was unbelievably close. Ground Zero were always there. They were always poised to be able to pick up the win for themselves, and something just fell flat for them, Skimmy.
It did, yeah. It was a really bizarre situation, right? To see them actually control the game in both situations, and then a couple of team fights go awry, and in the next minute the game has been flipped on its head, and it almost speaks to the characteristics of a lot of these Antic players, right? Mechanically very gifted, team fight experts, always hunting for those late game moments. It seems almost like a bit of an O's curse, right? You're just waiting for your opposition to make a mistake. Stats at the bottom, they look a little bit wrong, so we'll ignore those for the meantime. But I think the couple of things that I actually really want to harp on is the fact that we've got a Lilia ban as well as a Heimerdinger ban. Now we know that Lilia can certainly be flexed. We talk about Ground Zero, and we know that it can be flexible in multiple different lanes. We know that Tien wouldn't be too shy to play Lilia at top lane. And then Benvi, no matter how many times he gets dunked on by the opponents or even his own teammates, he's really, really good at Heimerdinger support, and so much so that it does have to warrant a ban.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a quick fix-up down there, so we can see the KDAs. I mean, the two big ones that stand out for me are Tien, so a little bit of what Zorinus said definitely rang true in the last time that they matched up with themselves, but also Swiper. He was settling into that role swap for himself, so I'm looking towards both of them to make more of a splash in their roles, to make more of an impact that isn't necessarily in that third column for themselves when we do eventually look at their KDA. And between these two in the game 1 and the game 2, to really illustrate what we keep talking about, how close it was, how back and forth it really was, is the gold advantage from this early game to the mid game and when it really swapped for them. So in both graphs, Antic's net worth or the gold advantage that they had is red, and Ground Zero is blue there, Max.
Yeah, net worth was definitely going in the favor of Ground Zero. They were able to hustle a lot in these early games and really stack up a nice little lead for themselves. I think that one of the big things, and Kisei kind of mentioned it in his interview, was the fact that Ground Zero do come in quite a favorable position in these early games, and it really does come down to just a random fight loss. That's particularly how they lost game 1 of this series, was literally just a random ace on mid lane into the game ending. So I think that with 4 weeks of preparation, with 4 weeks of careful planning behind them ever since that game, hopefully they've been able to shore up these weaknesses, because this is quite a significant gold gap to be having in these games. To maintain it so consistently, just to lose it, I think with a little bit of work, they can still make sure that they're translating these into actual wins.
Yeah, and they've been putting in that work throughout the weeks. I really do want to see it transition into something more for them. The games are competitive, so I guess I don't know really what I'm saying when what I'm looking for when I say that I want more for them. Anything shy of a win just really isn't going to be that improvement that Ground Zero really do deserve with the work that they put in for themselves. But the stats, when we look at our two teams head to head here, the damage share across the board, very heavy-handed on Antic's mid laner here, Skimmy.
Yes, it is, and it was a big talking point, right, where we mentioned that Ryoma had nearly 1,100 damage per minute in their last 3 up against them. He's been, I think it was like top 3 in the world for his amount of damage share there, but I think what you're really getting from those stats comparison is that, yeah, Ground Zero do push the tempo, right? They're finding those first towers, those first objectives, they're getting that gold lead, usually up to, near 2,000 gold by 15 minutes, whereas for Antic, it's a lot more reserved, it's a lot more measured. It's like, if we can get it, we will. If we can't, we don't really seem to worry about it too much. We're always playing for that mid to late game. So we harp on about it, but the stats are there to back it up. And yeah, it's a much more balanced team is what you're seeing from Ground Zero. Anybody on their day can carry.
Yeah, 100%. So let's see if they're going to focus themselves towards mid lane. It is going to be a blue side for Antic. Because it's a best of 3, whoever does lose game 1 is going to be able to have side select for themselves in game number 2. So that's why it's only one side select that does come up here. !Discord in chat if you guys want to join our Discord server and get a part of all the predictions of the series that are going on in the Discord. Otherwise, you can stay exactly where you are, already typing in Twitch chat, and you can use your channel points to show us who you guys are predicting for. It was a pretty big landslide in our previous series. A lot of people going very heavy-handed on Team Bliss. Let's see if we can get it a little bit closer between Ground Zero and Antic for you guys, because right here, all of us have gone for 2-1. We think that this is going to be a 3-game banger. We think it's going to go the distance, and we believe, Skimmy, you and I, it's Antic, but Max, Ground Zero, you have faith in them.
I have so much faith in Ground Zero. I think that this is a team who's really impressed me with their gameplay over the past couple of weeks. I think that looking at their previous series, I would almost say that was actually a better showing for Ground Zero than it was for Antic. I think it really just does come down to those little moments, and I think that the reason I've gone for 2-1 is one game. I'm sure Antic will find a miracle team fight like they always somehow manage to do. But I think on the whole, Ground Zero are very effective at getting these early game leads, and I hope that, with the amount of work they've been able to put in, they're able to actually hold on to those and secure the victory.
Yeah, that is something that they're looking forward themselves, but I'm just looking forward to watching some League of Legends. Let's get into it. Let's see what happens in the draft, because Champ Select is ready.
It certainly is. So let's lock and load and get into the real best of 3 of the one. I know a lot of the viewers at home have been waiting for, very excited to see these 2 heavyweights take to the Rift once again. Antic opting for blue side, and we'll get to see what their first pick priority is.
I really like this brand band coming out from Antic here. They're really paying respect over to something that has been quite a thorn in the side of a lot of drafts for them. Because Swiper has this proclivity to head towards those tankier melee engaged champions, Brand can often have a really free time kind of outpacing him, and not to mention the fact that Churnfire was really one of the first players to popularize this pick in Oceanic solo queue. But speaking of a pick that we have been seeing popularized a fair bit more in recent weeks, it's going to be the Smolder, but Skimmy, it's answered straight away with a Draven Ash.
And why is it when we ask Lemus play the Draven, semi-memeing, but at the same time not, he then decides, you know what, I'm going to save that Skimmy for playoffs. This is a champion that when he first joined the league, we said this guy is the Draven. It took us such a long time, but I'm glad to see it back.
And it's paired with the quintessential Benvi pick in the Ashe here, right? This is a champion who's very good at getting lane leads and translating that into priority, into picks with that arrow, and into vision control with that hawk shot. So game plan here around this bot lane as the Tahm Kench is picked up is to really kind of push them under their turret, allow this Draven to really stack up those adoration stacks, and then cash in for an ultimate kill. But speaking of cashing in, Skimmy, we made a whole graphic talking about why you shouldn't give Ryoma this champion, but he's just gotten his Azir.
He certainly has. They had an option to bat it away, but they opted for the Orianna instead. Yeah, as you say, the Azir, he played it 4 games in a row. That was partnered alongside a Rel in the jungle, whether or not that's going to be a consideration for this matchup, but it's just been too good time and time again, and it really makes me wonder if Kiste said, "Lo, have that champion, because I've got an answer perfectly primed to shut it down."
I mean, the Hui being taken away does restrict that a little bit, but he always will have something like the Akali to go towards. Now, something I did want to highlight with this Poppy pick was the flexibility of this heading into the second phase. Obviously, we have been seeing a lot more jungle, but also top lane TN is a very prolific Poppy player, right? He absolutely loves playing this champion, especially into picks like Cassante. So I wouldn't really be surprised to see Ground Zero pick up the mid laner here in response to the Azir, hold this Poppy as a 4-5 flex, and then if the Cassante comes out, you rotate that up towards top side and allow yourself the jungle counter pick.
Certainly has been one of the strengths of Ground Zero, the split, right? The ability to lock in multiple champs so that we can flex this not only just 2 ways, but in all 3 lanes. As you say, it really was, what do you want to ban? And they let the Akali go through, so it certainly is that Akali-Azir matchup to be expected as a result. You've already got yourself the Smolder and the Time Kench. We saw King explode into life up against Kanga and play this combo and deliver a very strong performance. But how do they want to round this all out? That Xin has already been denied away. And Durell, I mentioned before, has been a very common partnership when they've played it with the Azir. That worked wonders for them up against Direwolves as well as Ion. So Swiper going to stick to his guns.
Interesting pick here, though, into a potential Poppy, right? The W from Poppy is going to find so much value against the Rel. But it is a very quintessential Antic draft, right? You have this hyper carry in the mid lane, facilitated by Swiper here on this engage pick, and there is going to be the Cassante, which is just the kind of default blind pick now for most top laners. And the question is, what do Ground Zero want to go towards? I'd love if we saved 5 pick here for just an Udyr into Cassante matchup, but that's exactly what we're going to get.
Did I not ask Zoran in our interview, is it going to be Cassante versus Udyr? And he's just like, oh, you have to wait and see. Guys, the more things change, the more they all stay the same. Either way, though, I do have some concerns based on the cameras there. You can see from the Antic side whether or not they realize, look, we've gone for our quintessential comp, but we have kind of put ourselves in a position here where, yeah, the Poppy can literally 1v9 us.
Yeah, Poppy's going to have so much value here in terms of just being able to stand on her carries and really find a lot of value in just denying any initial engage. Now, Antic, one thing about this bot lane that when we first saw Antic pull this out was just the amount of poke that they were packing with this Smolder and Time Kench. Both of them opted for the Comet, and then both of them were just constantly harassing the enemy bot lane. So it'll be really interesting to see how Ground Zero navigate that, right? This is obviously a bot lane, Draven and Ashe, who need to be getting the push. They need to be having the first move and priority on these objectives. If they're not, they simply fall behind and get ran over. So a lot of high execution to be looked at around this bot side of the map.
Certainly is. There is going to be a fair degree of that, and I suppose also at the same time you're wondering just how well the Smolder can look to try and navigate it, because as we saw, they can deal a fair amount of poke with the Achu coming online, right? You push the wave, you poke out the enemy champion, you get some stacks, you look to try and accelerate yourself into the late game, but are you going to get that chance to be as sat back and protected when you are going into a Draven and Ashe, looking to try and cash out, looking to try and burst into life and make sure that the rest of the team get to profit as a result? In that first series of the night, tempo and priority really were the name of the game. They open up the highway to get every objective in the game. And in this one, with the stakes that much higher, second and third seeds, you cannot afford to give anything away to your opponent.
Absolutely not here, as we can see a standard level 1 taking place here from both teams. Ryoma opting for the fleet footwork here on his ear, so not going to be going the same tanky build that we saw previously. Makes sense, given how much he likes to pump out that damage and really be that DPS threat in the late game. Whereas Benvi has gone for the barrier. We've seen him on Ashe so many times just run up and just completely run down enemy bot lane. And kind of out of respect to that, you'll see that Draku's actually gone for the defensive Time Kench build, taking the Exhaust and the Guardian. So we won't see any of the same level 1 shenanigans where they're both poking out as TN. A little bit of damage here, but this isn't Udyr level 1. It is very safe.
Just
We'll
start
stare at 3 members of Antic. Why not?
Doesn't really matter. I mean, you can do some damage, but I am an Udyr at the end of the day, and really the second case is look to try and deny any shenanigans that Ground Zero could look to try and pull off. And I think this is a good heads-up play. We already mentioned earlier in tonight, right, that Antic have been renowned for their level 1 invades, really looking to try and put Swiper at such a strong advantage to make sure that his life is easy to find those skirmishes, to find those team fights. So for them to up the ante, to attack 2 lanes or 2 sides of the map at once, certainly puts them in good stead.
And speaking of attacking sides of the map here, you can see Schönfire, straight after completing this blue buff, will be looking for a Raptors invade. Now, with the priority that he should have from his bot lane, this will be quite easy, especially with the fact that he's pathing down. Perhaps even looking onto Swiper's red buff here now. The second he does complete this Raptors and walk over to the red, this will be spotted, and Swiper will have an opportunity to counter jungle. But right now, all the priority is favoring Ground Zero, and that's going to enable them to get this nice little start here in the jungle.
As you say, all three lanes working in Ground Zero's favor, and Schoenfire going to be nice and aggressive and going to be spotted out by Vision. Going towards those Krugs. King is just going to peel away from the lane for a second, but doesn't want to spend too much time away before realizing that another wave will crash underneath that bot lane tower. But wants to be enough of a menace to make sure, first of all, I don't get dived, but second, that I can actually get all this experience.
And that was really nice there. He actually reset the Krug, which is really going to slow down Schoenfire's clear here. You can see Poppy's still level 2. Off this camp, if she does get it all, she will tick level 3, but I don't know with those minions going over whether he'll tick it. He does get it, and there's a massive wave here. And Swiper's also in the area.
Level 3 to level 1. Pretty rough life right now for King. But Swiper, as you say, is ready to try and do what he can. His Draco's going to solo soak up the gold and the experience. Look how advanced the bot lane is of Ground Zero. They're already playing between 2 towers, only 3 minutes in.
And this is huge, though. Look at all the experience and gold that King is losing. This is a 2 CS Smolder right now. And yes, there's no actual dive to be had, but it's already a plating falling down. And Smolder is so far behind here. Lemus will throw out an auto attack, but not really much to come of that. You do imagine both teams will just disengage here. So all things said and done, a nice little invade translated into a bot push that really gets this Draven into a nice position early on.
Certainly the best possible scenario for a Draven, right? And if you're playing the center, you're thinking, maybe not the end of the world, right? My Tom Kench gets to flourish as a result, but as you say, it is a Smolder, a champion so squishy, needs to be babysat, and to be died this much already into a very aggressive lane. Perfect start for Ground Zero.
Yeah, the double Doran's Blade as well here from Benvi and Lemus, really just to secure that extra combat power in the early lane phase, where really you can find so much value as this Draven Ashe. Now, question is, what does Schoenfire do with his jungle path here? Because you can see after that initial invade onto the bot side, he has a lot of his top camp still up. But it looks like he's not going to go for it. Instead, he's wrapping back around towards this bot lane. Now, keep in mind, these are full HP bars for Antic here, as well as exhaust being available. Draco's actually going in.
He is going in. Abyssal Dive to start things off. The Tongue Lash to guarantee a fair bit of redemption to Benvi and make sure that a squishy champion, ooh, does take the damage as King sneezes on him and says, Benvi, you need to go back to base, pick up that support item. I'm sick of this double Doran's Blade aggression.
But this is big here, right? Schoenfire kind of just comes down here to allow his bot lane to get the wave in. Meanwhile, Swipe is able to deny the Raptor camp and kind of get himself back into the game as he picks up his second Gromp here. So all things said and done, it's actually not the worst for Antic here in this early game. Top lane, a slight CS lead, in mid lane, dead even. So across the board, being able to, you know, prevent that dive from actually resulting in any kills means the game's actually quite even as we crest the 5-minute mark.
It's a fairly even game, but at the same time, it's a clear indication that if you've got an early game champion or a champion that needs to assert control nice and early, that is where all the attention goes for the first 5 minutes. Lemus, no doubt, is going to be very happy with how this is played, as he will not only farm up those adoration stacks, but will get even closer to level 6 for that whirling axe to guarantee be it a kill on the lane or a kill cross map. Benvi, hot off the reset, goes straight to mid. Renowned for his ability to try and seek out opportunities, but he's going to be a bit of a contest here between both junglers, hunting for some of those Void Grubs. 2 picked up so far by Antic. Fight breaking out in the top lane, as Zoranus is really not loving life into the Zudia.
That's a huge trade there for Tien in the top side. Zoranus wanted to protect his jungler, who was doing those Void Grubs, but the cost will be running into a level 6 Udyr and tanking a fair amount of your health bar as a result. Now, Swiper does manage to pick up 2 of those Void Grubs, so he's the kind of the benefactor there of that early trade. And he will also run into Schoenfire here. No smites for either jungler, so it really just does come down to a burst, but Relq quite hard to contend with, and there we go.
Yep, picked up by Swiper, nicely done. As it's going to be very hard for him to find protection from around, but stuck underneath his mid-tier 1 right now, and if you thought proxying the wave was only a thing limited to the bot lane, well, we're seeing it top now as well, as Tien really is exerting his control in this lane, and well, already jumping to make sure that Zoranus is just treated like an NPC.
Yeah, he'll go and proxy that wave as well as dropping some really deep vision to spot out Swiper whenever he does make a play towards that top side of the map. So leveraging this proxy strat quite nicely, and on the other side of the map, his team is actually picking up the Dragon in response, thanks to the bot lane pressure that Lemus and Benvi have been able to create. So early game, they often have gone so well in the favor of Ground Zero. They're a very strong early game team, and that appears to continue to be the case here in Game 1.
Certainly does, and I think given the state of how much priority Ground Zero have had, it's remarkable that Swiper was able to find an opportunity to take away at least 2 of those Void Grubs, deny those Void Mites from spawning, and prevent them from saying, we're pushing these waves, we're shoving these towers, we're getting even more map control as a result. Both junglers in the area, Swiper knows that something is up, and certainly now, with vision being denied by Schönfire in that bot tri-bush, out goes the Abyssal Dive one more time, but sidestepping from Ground Zero, make sure that no CC will be found. But it is really that battle of harass, right? Who can land more, be it the Smolder or the Ashe?
And both junglers making sure to just kind of hover around this area, neither of them wanting to leave their bot lanes alone in a potential 2v3. Schönfire's mid lane, but he's going to get swept back.
He's going to get swept back. He goes for the stun into the wall, but it's not enough. He doesn't get stunned. And really, Roma says, why did you bother? Because now you're down to 10%.
He loses his HP, but ultimately it's not the worst, right? Forcing out that Emperor's Divide means that Kisei can play a little more recklessly. Unless Swiper finds him here, though. There is Flash on the Rel, but the healing is going to make sure Schönfire gets out just fine here. Now, Kisei, like I mentioned, with that Azira, can feel a bit safer in this lane. You saw, based on the health bars, he was getting harassed down there by Ryoma. So whilst it doesn't find a kill, it does open up that mid lane. And, you know, to keep Ryoma's Azir down for as long as possible, that's certainly something to be very happy with if you're Ground Zero.
Certainly is. If he gets an inch, he certainly does look to try and take a mile as a result. As again, really is playing as a top laner and a jungler, part-time as well, as he just runs in and says, Swiper, you will not be taking a Scuttler, the vision belongs to us, and the control continues to be in Ground Zero's favour. It's a phenomenal start from them, and you are wondering how much attention is going to be thrown to these next Void Grubs, which are up in, what, less than 50 seconds.
Yeah, and you can see the bot lane of Ground Zero is resetting here. I would imagine that BenV perhaps looks to link up with his jungler and walk out towards these to try to secure them for the side of Ground Zero. Now, the big caveat here is the fact that they can't get the 5 Void Grubs because Swiper took those previous 2, so not as potent as they would like, but definitely 4 is nothing to be scoffed at. And with the way BenV's deploying, it certainly looks like he wants to facilitate this control. Maybe not full committing, but with an Ashe who's just ticked level 6, she can even be an influence on this fight from the bot lane.
Certainly are looking for that cross-map play from the bot lane in particular, right? Double global ultimates. Could certainly pack a punch right now and influence a lane in their favor even further than it already is, because the deadlock is certainly not being broken between these mid and top laners. Very small margins between the two of them. Speak about small margins, there's not really much separating these teams as a whole as we hit the 10-minute mark.
And it's interesting that the gold is so close, right? Looking at the bot lane, you can see 20 CS is the difference, plus those 2 turret plantings that went down, and yet without that, it's still a basically neutral gold at this stage. And speaking of our previous Void Grubs conversation, it's going to be Schönfire who picks them up here. You can see Ground Zero, the bot lane as a response are hugging their turret. They have acknowledged that they are vulnerable at this particular window. And with no TPs available, there certainly is that window that Swiper may be looking to exploit here down towards the bot lane. The Devour pairing with a dive really means that you can execute these high HP dives unlike you would be able to without that ultimate being available. But they're not going to look for it this time. Instead, just opting to continue clearing here.
Certainly is one of the strong points off that bot lane combo, right? That they can dive with a fair degree of reckless abandon. Always knowing that no matter how much of these turrets we tank up, there's always a Devour to bail you out and really cheat what should have been a surefire 1-for-1 trade. But I will say it's fairly remarkable that despite King being zoned out and being level 1 for what felt like an eternity, getting proxied only a couple of minutes in, that the difference is only 20 CS. Yes, Limus no doubt has a ton of adoration stacks backed up, and if there's not much between these two teams, if that can be realized, they will start to run away with things.
Yeah, obviously the early game has always been the Ground Zero special. They're a really fantastic team. As we pan to top lane now, you can see TN having a really nice time in this laning phase. He's managed to take 2 turret platings for himself in this lane, as he's working his way towards the Leandros and gets another base cancel. So this Udyr last pick, you know, not the conventional 5P carry, Schönfire stealing away the Scuttle Crab, but certainly able to carry in his own right. If he's able to get this gold lead, able to stack up a bit of MR, as they might be looking for a dive here. I'm not sure what they actually want here.
Looking like a whole lot of nothing right now, just 2 members on either side staunching one another out, saying we could do this, but we won't. We're just a bunch of tanks looking to show face. And it does become a little bit interesting then for the likes of mid and bot, knowing how keen they would be to try and force a fight. What it does mean when those junglers do go awry, if they do poke their head into top lane, whether or not there's an invitation for a bit more aggression to be found. We're 12 minutes in, Max, yet to find our first blood.
This is not what I was expecting from a Ground Zero Antic game, right? The pure amount of respect that's being shown is quite incredible. You can see here, as a result of that TP being used in the top lane, Ryoma as well, kind of ceding lane control because he had to TP back. It does look like this second dragon will just be going over, so obviously yet to see the soul point, but Ground Zero doing a nice job of accelerating themselves towards that win condition nice and early.
It's a weird situation to be in, but you wonder which team is favoured more as a result of this more passive affair to start things off with. Obviously, Ground Zero, of all this control that we mentioned for this initial game one, has allowed them to really do as they please, picking up Void Grubs, picking up Dragons, stacking those up nice and quickly. The Will and Death coming on through, looking to try and deny any reset to be found in that bot lane. Not to be done. Once again, the drive-by from Schönfire in towards mid lane, looking at Ryoma, who last time hit him with the Empress Divide. This time will do the same. And the Magnet Storm to get him just a little bit closer to the tower, but they do not need it. And first blood for Antic.
That time, Schönfire's greed on mid lane actually gets punished there. A really nice read from Swiper to quickly flash in and secure that. Mechanically, Swiper played that very well, using the Magnet Storm to drag Schönfire away from his passive, right? Wasn't able to get that shield. If he picks that up, he can most likely just flash the wall and get out. But this time, Ryoma will be the benefactor. So it took us 13 minutes to get there, but a first blood onto Ryoma's Azir. Certainly where you want to see that gold going if you're Antic.
That definitely is the best case scenario. You bet away the Orianna. You've given him Cross, arguably his best champion this split. And based on how he's performed it in the past, we are in for an absolute 1v9 performance. Nash's Tooth complete as a result. Kisei not going to be far behind though. He's already got tier 2 boots complete as well as the rocket belt to boot. He will be a very strong Akali and will certainly not be shy of a cheeky 1v1. Question becomes though, another objective on the map to take, and Ground Zero continue to be favoured.
Yeah, really have been having control of every single objective that's spawned so far besides those first 2 Void Grubs. You can see that with the positioning of Antic's bot lane here towards the bot side of the map, there really is no way for them to contest in an even numbered fight. So we'll just be taking this Herald here, will Schönfire. The question is, can they actually make a play against Kisei on this Akali? Keep in mind, Akali is a very mobile champion, a very safe champion with that Shroud, and there always is the TP from TN if they do commit too deep. So let's take a look here as well. There is an Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Here's it coming.
Yeah, it's the cross map ult. We're going to try and lock him
He's
underneath the
taking turret.
tower, and he's got the aggro, so the Devour has to be used. That is that Reckless Abandon. We highlight the Devour as well as the Abyssal Dive gets him out to safety for the meantime. But the Magnet Storm, I don't think it's going to be enough. As they summon a dragon across, and that's not enough to deter Ground Zero. The TP, the Ghost, and just a run them down attitude from Ground Zero.
Really nice response there to that potential turret dive. You can see the Enchanted Crystal Arrow coming through as Schönfire's caught.
Certainly has been caught once again. This Empress Divide seems to be a real sore point for him to try and contend with, and Draku is the one to pick it up. It's all starting to explode now. We had to wait a long time as the mid game came around. Antic exploded into life.
Yeah, Schönfire just getting caught off once again in the enemy jungle, looking for a camp on that respawn timer of Swiper, but just ends up going down. Yes, it's to the time, Kench, but still your second death here on this Poppy, not where you'd want to be. And to go back to that previous play, Kisei actually walked up to Swiper, took damage from the Barmy Cinder, and that was the thing that procced the turret aggro. So just a really nice read there, really nice mechanical play from this young mid laner to be able to pick up his first assist here. Kill going over to TN on this Udyr, opting for the Liandry's into full tank route. So not only is he able to do ridiculous things in terms of surviving the middle of team fights, but also he's certainly able to contend in those side lanes in terms of damage as well.
Yeah, absurd amount of damage will come through as a result of that one. We've seen Udyr's certainly stand the test of time and contend with 5 members around them and just walk out with Turtle and just kind of laugh. But yeah, with this as well, they're looking to try and really assert themselves to control and ability just to run anybody down and leave no survivors.
With this dragon spawning in 1 minute, the question really does become how we're playing around the bot lane. Enchanted Crystal Arrow just misses Ryoma there. He'll flay the emote and walk out of harm's way, but 50 seconds, you can see the vision that's being set up by either team here around this bot side. Neither team's really been able to take a firm control here. You can see control wards in the river, mostly belonging to Ground Zero, but Antic are slowly working their vision line up. Now this will be a huge fight. Keep in mind, this is a Draven who hasn't cashed in all game. We'll have to check in on his adoration stacks, but certainly he would love to get a kill on board. And there will definitely be a fair amount of execute damage coming through. 494 Skimmy on the adoration stacks. He's making a whole band.
He certainly is. He's definitely going to be a bit of a whale after this one if he can cash that in. The amount of money coming on through. Going to be like a millionaire tycoon, no doubt about it. He's gone for the opportunity as well. Certainly seems to be the go-to item now. We've veered away from the likes of the Ghost Blades. And we just want to utilize that active from finding those kills. Let's see then if they decide to try and contest this one, because it is Antic first to deploy to try and deny GrandZero from getting themselves a very quick to establish soul point. They're TPing in, they're making a stand for it, and the Dragon gets lower and lower, but Sniper's already peeled away from it with the Magnet Storm locking in place one clear target. Shern getting isolated by the Cassante, and Benby not far behind him. Double kill for Zoranus despite what was such a rough laning phase. He's answered back when it matters, and that's team fights.
Big team fight win there for Antic. They make the decision to just turn up onto the squishier members of GrandZero, and they manage to do so with great success. You can see Zoranus taking 2 kills out of that play, and it will stop the Dragon stacking of GrandZero. So really heads up read there by Antic to deny the flanks by just running up the river. And once again, it's this decisive shot calling from Swiper that really feels like it makes the team fights easy. Let's take a look at this play once again, because we can see the TP coming through. Antic acknowledge that they're kind of getting pincered here, so they make the decision to turn upwards. Churnfire, yes, he's a poppy, but by no means is he tanky. He falls on down, and Benby, who just used Flash to deny the initial engage, falls down as a result here. So 3 kills going over to Antic as well as the Dragon. Feels like once again GrandZero, they're falling victim to this one team fight to lose the game, but here goes Churnfire onto Ryoma.
Looking for that key target, the Sun Disc is summoned, and Ryoma, oh, what a fantastic denial! Or that Empress Divide was for sure about to come out to play, as he looks to really answer back and bring the pain and pressure to 3 of them as GrandZero forces to scuttle away.
And how good is Azir in this comp, right? Which champion is actually able to kill him? Besides the Akali, there's really not much the rest of GrandZero can do. You can see Tien kind of is just forced to run at him awkwardly while taking all this damage from this Nash's Tooth Azir. Poppy can't do much. We just saw her diving and just getting basically one shot under the turret. And then you're playing against a double range here. So really, it's going to come down to Kisei to be fighting these flanks and picking off Ryoma, or else we're going to be treated to one of his ridiculous damage specials that we have seen in the past here. Now, Rift Herald will be summoned in towards this bot lane. It's got quite a long journey to go before it finds a turret. I'd be very surprised if it's actually able to make it all that way.
Incredibly long lane for it to travel on through, right, as Kisei looks to try and escort that one, and perhaps at some stage become a passenger to guarantee another opening on the map for them to answer back, because after that recent play, Antic have managed to take a bit of a map lead with 2 towers acquired, both outers on either end of the map. That Herald may just really become another minion for Zoranus to farm.
Looks like it, and now this Cassante is very scary as we see the Enchanted Crystal Arrow missing there on the mid wave. But now Zoranus is looking very, very scary. Lemus, yes, he has so many adoration stacks, but what does it actually matter if you're never able to get a kill on this Draven? Currently sitting just on the opportunity as he works his way towards that Collector. But you imagine just one cash-in could really be the game-swinging event. With the way Antic are playing, it's not looking like they're going to give an opening anytime soon.
And it is always that weird situation, that weird spot to be as a Draven, right? Do I want to try and commit for the all-out kill? Or do I play a little bit too passively, let opportunities pass me on by? And you look, try and, preserve my KDA, make sure that my adoration continues to grow and grow and grow. But obviously, individual like Lemus, so well-versed in the champion, will find his moment, just biding that time right now. And will hopefully be able to catch that one in sooner rather than later, because King already at 166 stacks as the Smolder. But it does feel like a game, Max, where stacks are the name of the game.
Stacks are the name of the game, and King is definitely winning right now with this mid lane. Basically all under his control is actually the TPs coming out here. This is Tien.
TP there, he's got the Ghost available if he so desires, but he's going to hold it for the meantime. Draku is the hitting at the valve, not taking any chances on this occasion as they turn their attention towards Zoranus. We see all that to cover the distance. We get absolutely flashbanged by the drive-by on the Dragon. As the sound, it's so loud and it's deafening here for GrandZero. Steadfast presence is clutch and denies Zoranus of that Intofo strikes that could have spelt disaster.
Zoranus on this Cassante is absolutely immovable, whereas Tien very much able to fall on down, as we just saw in that previous play. Zona's doing a fantastic job to avoid the initial engage and then soak up all this damage while bringing Tien back into his team and taking him down. And now this Cassante blind pick really looking scary as the scaling of Antic is the key factor as we head on into this game. I mean, yes, it's only 3,000 gold, but you can see from this TP, Ground Zero want to find something. They realize that they need to make a play, try to force something. The arrow lands, but Dracu's there to devour him, and then this Cassante, he just doesn't die.
Doesn't die. An immovable object at this point in time, repositioning very nicely there for the ultimate and getting himself out of harm's way. And by that point, it just feels like Ground Zero have put themselves in a bit of a risky position. And yeah, if it wasn't for the Poppy, would have been 2 casualties on that occasion. And now you take a bit of a stock check of those soda lanes, and for all the good work that Ground Zero did, it's now a 5-0 combined top and mid.
Very scary solo laners here for the side of Antic, and as this game goes on, you really do wonder how Ground Zero actually start their fights, right? That's kind of one of the big issues with picking Poppy is, yes, you're a fantastic disengaged champion, but how are you actually pulling the trigger on these fights? You know, the Enchanted Crystal Arrow can just always be eaten by Dracu, whoever eats that stun. And it makes it really hard to actually find kills. So with this next Ocean Dragon spawning, Ground Zero don't have a single bit of vision in the area, and it will just be Antic picking this second one up. What is Ground Zero's response? When do they actually pull the trigger? Because right now it feels like Antic, they're getting to play towards this 40-minute win con uncontested.
And that's the weird thing for me, Max, is for all the good work, they had that level 1 invade, they had all the pressure to deny King really getting that perfect laning phase. It all looks so good to start off with, but then from that point on, it's almost like they've let off the gas a little bit and almost a little bit hesitant to engage, knowing that, hey, if one failed fight goes awry, then we fall further and further behind. Surely now, knowing that Lemus has picked up the Lord Dominic's, this is your time to strike. Let's check in with the gold overall. And you can see, no surprise that Ryoma is top of the tables, but we harp on about it. Lemus really is surrounded by multiple Antic members. And you know, all it takes is that one big fight, and if it's Baron, then surely that's the time to fight.
I mean, at this point, he has to have like 700 adoration stacks. It's got to be some ridiculous number that he's working with right now.
Yeah.
There you go, 750. So if he manages to get a kill without pulling down first, he's basically building himself half a full item at this stage as Antic might have found an engage here.
Magnet Storm will be used. The Swiper isolates out Kissei. He goes into the Shroud, buys a little bit more time. They summon Mum. As Draco gets knifed from that Abyssal dive. Schönfire lagging behind, caught off to the side there, and he gets dropped down to 50%. You talk about the stacks there for Lemus. We'll talk about the fight instead as Tien gets shoved with an Emperor's Divide, but does Zudia things and just waddles away. Jumping across the wall goes Swiper. Tien does have Ghost in a couple of seconds.
TB.
And the TB to try and back him up. This is a fight that they win because it's going to be 2v4 as the Sundisk is summoned. He dive once again, not successful. Swiper knocks back Kissei, and King smacks him down. My previous point being 800 stacks for Lemus, but now King's got the execute.
But here goes Ground Zero. They've found the pick.
They certainly have found the pick they're looking for. Lemus is the target. All those adoration stacks are gone. And for all their good work, 25 minutes completely undone. It's a perfect ace. It's a triple kill for the Dragon. It's a Baron.
Every time, Ground Zero, they had the lead, they had the strong position in the early and mid game, but Antic, they outlast, they get to this scaling point, and just a clean team fight, a clean Baron, 11-1 here. And like you said, it goes from bad to worse. Draven loses adoration stacks as we take a look at this play once again. Tien is initially really caught out here, but the TP from Kissei to potentially save him. He ends up going down off the back of a nice re-engage by Swiper here. Gets the flash flip into the chain damage here. And off the back of this, you can see Schönfire. They want to blow up this one target here on towards Ryoma, but simply Lemus cannot hit him. There's a Devour to come through to give him that shield, to buy him that invulnerability. And off the back end, no one can stand in front of Ryoma. And at the end of this, no one is left alive.
It just feels to me like, Max, they've left it too late to try and find an opportunity to strike. They've opened Pandora's box and they do not like what they see. Benvi isolated as Ryoma goes on a rampage. He's got 4 kills right now. 3 members locked inside that Magnet Storm. This is a drive-by on the Dragon. Triple kill into double kill. This Smolder is unleashed.
Ace after ace, Antic say we can do it once, we will do it again, and there you go, just in the jungle there, what starts as a pick onto Benvi, ends up being a complete ace here. And for Skimmy, what was such a close game only 2 minutes ago is now 16-1 in the kill score with a 9,000 gold lead in favor of Antic.
16-1. You saw the fan vote from everybody beforehand. It was dead down the middle, 50-50. But this game has become completely lopsided. All things going the way of Antic, and it's completely even defied my expectations.
Yeah, looks way more one-sided than I ever expected, really coming out of this gate into game one here. From this point on, what do you actually do as Ground Zero? I mean, look at the inventories for the side of Antic. Ryoma has just completed his death cap. As we take a look once again, Benby caught out here, this Ashe. Basically just a walking ward, in the words of Zoranus, and they try to get the kill back onto Draku, but there is just too much damage. There's too much tankiness from this Tahm Kench to survive. And without that initial kill, Ground Zero have nothing to work with. They're playing into Smolder and they will just all burn down. And now 3.5 items here completed on King on this Smolder. 266 stacks. Yes, the Draven was looking scary, but now there's an even scarier 80 carry prospect.
There certainly is. You've got to deal with 2 carries with a combined 12-0 scoreline. If it was bad enough to try and contend with Ryoma's coveted Azir, you've now got to do damage to this hyper-accelerated Smolder that King has piloted to success. It was a rough early game. He got through it. And his Tahm Kench has always been there to back him up. And Ground Zero must be kicking themselves right now, unable to find any way to answer back with this current game state. 30 minutes in, down 10k gold, a Baron Siege that only now expires. With one inhibitor taken in the bot lane, a second opened in the mids. It's time to open up top lane. As in jumps Shern, and as soon as he goes in, he falls on down. They summon the dragon again, and he's very lucky to be alive there, quite honestly. Kisei turns golden. He flashes out to safety, but none of that will be found in this occasion. And Tien has to settle to try and kill a support, but even that's too hard to achieve as the exhaust denies him. The kill is not found, and it is desperation as Antic wipe the floor with them.
It's the best case fight for Ground Zero there. They use the Keeper's Verdict onto Draku, remove him from the fight while Tien's TP flanking, and they still can't win. It's 18-1. They want to break these Nexus turrets. They want to break this game.
They want to open this series. They want to give themselves that win condition, that chance to become the second participant here in those PCS playoffs qualifying game. They want to have a date with Destiny up against Bliss, the match that we'd all hyped up during that regular season. King goes double digits with it, 11-0 right now, absolutely phenomenal. The Draven didn't get to play, but Antic, they certainly did.
Everybody said it would come down to who played better on the day, and as for game one, that was certainly Antic. 20 kills to 1, only a single death for that entire affair. Antic demolished Ground Zero in game one.
To finish a game like that with your second and third seed, 20 kills to 1. Let that sink in for a second. That is absolutely mind-boggling. Let's see how Ground Zero can answer back right after this.